Can a minimalist multi-court sports court to gym shoe work as a dedicated tennis shoe for playing tennis and only tennis? The short answer is I started playing tennis about 3.5 years ago, and when I was searching for my first dedicated pair of shoes for tennis, I wanted a natural foot-shaped shoe. It's a shoe that literally has a more anatomical foot-shaped design. In a traditional shoe where the toe box tends to curve prematurely and terminate in a pointier shape at the toe, in contrast to an actual foot, a natural foot-shaped shoe will hold the line and keep the angle on both sides of the shoe much more open and will have a softer and later rounding about the toe box, like an actual foot. Another common characteristic of natural foot-shaped shoes is less difference in the height of the shoe at the heel and the toe, or a low heel-to-toe drop. Low to zero heel-to-toe drop is typical in natural foot-shaped shoes, with some brands adhering to zero drop designs like a brand called Lems, and some, like Ultra, offering certain models with slight heel-to-toe drop. There tends to be very little drop compared to a traditional shoe design, which tends to have a drastically higher heel-to-toe drop. As far as stack height and cushion, natural foot-shaped shoes can vary widely in these characteristics depending on the intended use of the shoe. The purpose of these design aspects is to allow your feet and toes to spread out under pressure and movement as they're allotted the appropriate volume and surface area in the shoe to let the anatomy of the foot work with more efficient biomechanics. Basically, your feet get room to do their thing instead of your feet making room for the shoe to do its thing. Within the natural foot-shaped shoe umbrella, if you will, are a couple of purpose-driven philosophies and design approaches that incorporate more distinct characteristics than just being foot-shaped. Barefoot and minimalist. Both are similar, but an out-and-out barefoot shoe attempts to put as little between your feet and the environment as it can, maintaining the least obstructive foot-to-surface interface as possible, with some variation depending on the intended application. Like a barefoot trail shoe might have a more protective and durable design and material structure than a basic casual barefoot shoe. The barefoot design amounts to little to no cushion and stack height, a spacious natural foot shape overall, no arch support, extremely flexible and pliable structure and materials, and zero heel to toe drop. Vivo Barefoot or Zero Shoes are good examples of companies positioned in the barefoot shoe space. Minimalist shoes can have more variance in their design approaches as far as stack height and cushion, and there can exist some heel-to-toe drop, but the framework of the design approach in minimalist shoes typically is derived from the barefoot approach. What I was looking for, though, was nothing of a barefoot or minimalist shoe. It was simply a typical tennis shoe with a natural foot shape. But like a kid in class who doesn't want to be called on, big tennis shoe brands have kept their heads down when it comes to this kind of design approach. Fast forward to late 2025, again, almost 4 years after my search for a natural foot-shaped shoe for tennis began, when I heard about a smaller shoe company called Notace from a Zero Love tennis short on YouTube, and their plans to release a natural foot-shaped court sports shoe with a high-performance marketing spin. Early 2026, enter the Koto 1. Made for court sports that is designed with a natural foot shape and isn't barefoot, and with carefully curated language on its product page, lending itself to the notion that these aren't just for Sunday pickleballers, but can be a reliable option for zero-drop sneakers for high-performance court play. And with the marketing media I consumed, what I perceived as a tennis-leaning focus. But the big but is it's a minimalist shoe. Notace is one of the many shoe brands making minimalist natural foot-shaped shoes for gym, lifestyle, running, and hiking, but they're one of 3 companies that I know of making a shoe specifically for court sports. Zero Shoes and Kurt being the other 2, with Zero Shoes offering being clearly promoted as an option for recreational court endeavors, and Kurt's Move offering being a bit more of a direct parallel to the Koto one, albeit with pretty plain pickleball media on its product page, therefore garnering a prompt dismissal from me. So with the picking so slim when it comes to any natural foot-shaped or foot-shaped footwear options, and given that the Koto 1 is marketed and designed as a minimalist shoe to go from court to gym and not as a tennis-specific shoe, despite some tennis use focused publicity, I had to collect the required $165 or $150 after a promo code and order a pair just to see if I could don these as is out of the box or finagle the minimalism up to a level suitable to become my dedicated shoe for tennis and only tennis. When it comes to fit, the Koto 1 runs long in my measurements, so after sizing down a half size in the Koto 1 from what I usually wear in other foot-shaped shoes, I found that from heel to midfoot, the shoe felt nice and secure as is, with enough room to adjust the feel of the volume with the laces, which is not always the case in this realm of footwear. The comfort level underfoot felt pretty top-notch, and honestly, I couldn't wait to get them on the court, and I didn't. I went straight to the wall and immediately noticed 2 of the ultimately 3 limiting factors I ended up identifying standing in the way of these Koto 1s being viable as my default tennis shoe. The first factor was the volume in the toe box. It was so much that it left the shoe feeling sloppy in the toe box, which is the opposite of what I want out of my tennis shoes, but can be common in minimalist and barefoot foot-shaped shoes. I want to feel secure yet unhindered on the court, and the leeway given my forefoot and toes by the volume felt like a hindrance and didn't translate to confident, efficient movement or comfort due to that slippage from the lack of vertical fastening in the toe box. It felt a little bit like I had a paper bag around my foot and my toes were just swimming in space and there's no way to tighten it up in their stock form. The second factor was the lack of cushion. I'm not new to this style of shoe, and to be fair, I've never enjoyed the less cushioned experience from barefoot or minimalist shoes in any scenario with unnatural surfaces or involving more impact than some modest hiking. That said and considered, the on-court feel in the Koto ones is jarring, and this is where the stated minimalism of the Koto ones shines through the most in application to tennis. With that 19mm stack height and very humble midsole, I really felt my feet impacting the court. I didn't enjoy it, and it made me question what place this amount of cushion might have in the high-performance court play that it mentions on its product page, especially with the high-impact nature of tennis-specific movements and longer hours on court experienced at those higher levels. I'm totally open to this being a me thing, and for me, it just felt uncomfortable to pound through tennis movements on hard courts with that amount of cushioning. So, to address these aspects, the sloppy toe box and the minimal cushion, I did the go-to modification when it comes to minimalist shoes or barefoot shoes and took a standard plain old insole of this many millimeters and added it on top of the Koto one's insole, and voila. By raising the footbed that little bit and simultaneously adding that little bit to the total material interface between my feet and the ground, those limiting factors were sufficiently mitigated and I took the shoes to the races. I quickly forgot about my feet on court and could just move. My toes had room to splay laterally but were secure vertically. Even with a decrease in overall volume due to that extra insole, there was still enough room to loosen the laces secure the foot, and remain comfortable throughout even a 2-hour session. It was as close as I had ever gotten to the natural foot-shaped shoe for tennis I had been searching for almost 4 years. So with the fit dialed in and performance satisfactory, just one question remained. How long were these minimalist shoes going to last as my underfoot workhorses? I received these on March 31st. Okay, and from that same day to May 11th, I put in about 28 and a half hours on court. Okay, and this is the current state of my Koto ones. I'm right-handed and my left shoe gets a ton of wear from both forehand and backhand related toe dragging and pivoting. And the toe guards on both shoes have holes worn straight through. These holes go clear into the interior of the toe box, and the bottoms are about as smooth as mine when I was born. But I pushed these shoes to a purpose and level they ostensibly weren't designed to breach as a daily on-court driver on harsh surfaces in demanding sessions. The hours I put in were all relatively intense hours, training, hitting against the wall, or basket sessions on slow and gritty courts. There was no match play, no standing around. It was all gas, no brakes. And as you can see, the finish line for these as workhorses was the slaughterhouse. But 28 and a half hours of court time, or almost 1 hour, 7 days a week for a month straight, is pretty good. For a minimalist shoe positioned in the market as a shoe that can go from court to gym and is not explicitly touted as solely a tennis shoe specific to the sport of tennis, right? You tell me. Now, at this point, you may have forgotten that I ended up identifying three limiting factors standing between these being my long sought after go-to dedicated pair of shoes for tennis. 1 was the toe box, 2, the minimal cushion. Number 3 is the price. Listen, if you look at the barefoot, minimalist, or natural foot shaped shoe market, the $165 price point sits around the upper mid-range of the market prices across all intended use cases. And of the 3 currently available shoes designed for court use from Notace and Kurt, it's basically the same price for one single pair. They're not basically the same price. I do not endorse this statement. Please unsubscribe. while Zero Shoes court shoe, I think it's called the Rally 360, is $130. At this point, I really only mentioned Zero Shoes as one of the three here on the technicality that it's explicitly presented as a shoe for court sport use. Like I mentioned before, it's marketed towards rec court sport players and gym goers, and notably not presented as high performance in any language on their product page. It doesn't really fit in this comparison because moving over to the product page for Kurt's Move shoes, unequivocally targeted to what looks like more serious athletes within the pickleball playing community based on the photos, and reads like it could work for more serious participants within other court sports communities in general who are looking for a natural foot shape daily driver. There's no waffling about between intended use cases. It's not for hitting the gym or rec leagues. It's the court shoe that keeps you on the court and built for athletes who play 4 to 5 times per week and refuse to compromise. But again, they don't show or mention even the word tennis anywhere on their product page outside of this little shoe style comparison chart and customer reviews. Despite this lack of linguistic sport specificity, it's not without great pain that I also realize that the moves are not mentioned to be minimalist in any capacity, and I might have been better served to forego my tennis purism and try the moves before trying the Koto ones, because the moves kind of, sort of, definitely appear to be exactly what I tried to turn the Koto ones into. But alas, my methods of existing and participating in the world continue to facilitate a single, uninterrupted, humbling experience. But we're not going to talk about the moves anymore. They're marketed to pickleball. So we're going to pretend like they don't exist because it's tennis. Steering away from price comparisons within just the barefoot minimalist foot shape shoe market. If you look at any major shoe brands, tennis specific offerings, we're talking traditional tennis shoes, on their own pages or via tennis equipment retailers pages, there are a handful of ripely priced shoes up to $220, all boasting premium tech and construction materials to maximize yield within their performance categories, with those categories generally being speed-oriented and stability and durability-oriented. The sub-$200 range, we can see a few, and then the Koto's $165 range. And then the next decently populated range around $150. Tennis-specific shoes at similar prices to the Koto ones can last longer, or at the very least as long. And I'm only not positing that they will last longer with more certainty, because I have no first-hand experience with tennis shoes from this higher price range. But I mean, look at how beefy some of these are. Even the lightweight speed-focused models have more durability prolonging features than the Koto one. And a lot of them have a 6-month durability guarantee if you go over to the big TW, where if you wear through the outsole to the midsole or insole within 6 months, they'll replace your shoes. Now, once we descend in price from the $165 range, some tennis-specific shoes that are far cheaper than the Koto ones can and will outlast them. From my own experience, like my budget Nike Vapor Lights. These are currently $90. This particular pair lasted me from November 2025 all the way to March 31st when I got my Koto ones in the mail. And this is the damage they accrued over 50 hours and 40 minutes of very similar court time as far as conditions and movement heavy sessions go. So to frame the value another way, at regular MSRP, I can get 2 pairs of Vapor Lights totaling $180 before tax and shipping, and potentially get through 100 hours of court time between the two pairs. The Koto one is priced near the premium ceiling, while its value, foot-shaped characteristics and all, in my very humble opinion, is not premium tier. This positions the Koto one in a tricky spot where its most apt price analogs sit in the barefoot, minimalist, natural foot-shaped shoe market, while its most apt consumer audience trades in the tennis footwear for tennis players market. In my specific case, okay, as far as performance goes, meaning do they do what I need them to do while on court? Both sides do the task fine if we reduce this whole concept to a bigger picture. But when we zoom back into the depths of what I've been blowing air about this whole video, the trade-off in going with a traditional tennis shoe over the Koto one is I lose the zero drop flexible structure for my feet to work more optimally and that toe space in the toe box. Conversely, taking the Koto one over a traditional tennis shoe, I lose dollars, durability, and cushion, with the dollars being a compounding negative because I'd need to replace the Koto ones like every month. Can a minimalist multi-court sports court to gym shoe work as a dedicated shoe for tennis and only tennis? Yes. Is it worth it for me? As you probably guessed, considering the comparatively minimal time on court that they survived due to minimal materials used, and the role I was attempting to finesse them into as solely my go-to shoe to abuse on hard tennis courts, a purpose not expressly intended by Notace based on their product page for the shoe. Considering all of that, the bang for the buck for me personally is minimal. So my Koto experience is driving me to try other options or just stick with my budget go-tos instead of immediately repurchasing Koto ones simply due to that dollar to durability ratio. I mean, if the Koto ones lasted 50 hours, that would probably make the sale for me. I could justify that amount of money for a shoe that lasts that long and gives me that toe space and other natural foot shaped shoe perks. But without a reasonable price as per the tennis footwear market, I can and will push the toe squeeze of $85 or $90 shoes to the back of my mind and forget about it and play happily for 50 hours plus before replacing them over spending $165 every month as a foray into the court sports market that's wide open with scarce proven product viability and with few ahead or alongside it to offer trials and errors. The Koto one is an honorable toe to put in the water, and I have to give my appreciation to those via Notace for risking some hefty biscuits to put this product out into the market. And it absolutely, probably does everything it's touted to do for most, or at least the right person, which is what it comes down to when you're talking about footwear across any use. It's a very personal choice with clearly subjective parameters and criteria. This is only my experience. And it's not even meant as a review or to inform you of what you might get. If you are intrigued by the Koto one, pick it up. So for my liking at the very least, shoes like these feel extremely welcome and needed. Whether you're Notace or another natural foot-shaped shoe brand looking at the tennis shoe market, we tennis players want and need more. And by more, I mean less minimalism and more shoe.
Daddy, chill.
Just make a full-on tennis shoe with a natural foot shape. Give us that nice anatomical toe box, priced appropriately for its proposed features within the tennis-specific shoe market. And you can have all of the money that we can find to throw at footwear for tennis. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Literally take this shoe, or this shoe. Literally take this shoe or any other tissue and all of the materials, stack, cushion, everything about it, and slap it on a natural foot shape design. We don't all need or want a minimalist natural experience underfoot on an unnatural surface when we're pounding around the court, smoking indisputable winners for hours on it. We just want our toes to not be crowded and for our shoes to accommodate our feet more naturally instead of our feet accommodating the shoe. Why can't there be a naturally foot-shaped shoe for not just tennis, but every sport? Somebody, please help. Anyway, welcome to the channel. There's going to be a lot of different kind of content about my personal tennis journey. From ground stroke analysis and improvements and training plans to match play to equipment testing, gear testing, hopefully gonna get my hands on Wilson's new racket, whatever else comes up. Thank you for watching for the break, and I will see you down the line.